Things are starting to get pretty interesting, Mark, and especially at the commercial bank level, the and the central bank level, in particular, what's going on with silver. Obviously, I'm sure you've talked much about the fact that China just, or excuse me, U.S. just classified silver, reclassified it as a critical mineral, um, which is massive news. You have now silver as a matter of national security and policy. China is doing something similar, and also limiting exports. Every ounce that leaves the country now has to apply for a permit with Beijing. You have China now controlling anything that leaves. They're calling it a national security measure. Silver is taking on a new view, and no one has been as active in the silver market over the years as J.P. Morgan, who I believe is an agent of the Fed. Um,
You
and
think?
Jamie Dimon and Jamie Dimon in particular. So yeah, I think things are going to get very interesting with silver. Very, very interesting. When you have the biggest money in the world draining the LBMA, when you have the biggest money in the world like China, like India, like Saudi Arabia buying massive amounts, when you have billions upon billions being imported since November a year ago into the COMEX, unlike anything anyone's ever seen. These are all really big things. When you have a country, a U.S. government come in and validate that with calling it a critical mineral, you've now put a floor under the price of silver. I think the sky's the limit. I don't tell people to buy silver to get wealthy, but when you talk about a tiny market cap, about this big, this little itty bitty gold coin, um, and you have government pumping money into the ecosystem, the potential is extraordinary. You measure the strength of the dollar against a basket of horseshit currencies, the dollar index. In essence, it's the strength of the euro this year that has masked everything. The dollar is only down 8 or 9%, we're told. But it's down 70+% even with the pullback that we saw against silver. Well, James Rickard says if you were to measure gold against the dollar in terms of its decline since 71, gold would be $96,000 if you measure it in gold ounces. We don't, though. We measure the fall of the dollar against the Dixie. But yeah, it's since 1913, the establishment of the Fed, the dollar is worth about 1 cent of its purchasing power. And you can look at so many examples, and it's interesting as prices have gone higher. If you go back to 71 and any asset you think of, measure it in gold ounces, and you'll see prices have been falling against gold, which is the true barometer. Measured against the dollar, and it's the opposite. It's because the dollar has the purchasing power of a melting ice cube. This is the Cantillon effect. The closest to the money wins. What does it mean by that? It means that if you have the money, you immediately convert it into assets. The rich do. Those assets have all gone up. If you hold it in dollars, you're going broke. Now think about any asset. They've all gone up, or wage growth, or anything. It's contrary to the way that we are taught to think, but I'll do the numbers with you. I mean, we've done this before. You look at what the price, let's go back 20 years to 2000. The price of gold was $450 or so. The gold price in 2000 was $279 per ounce.
Wow.
I say, what was the house price in 2000? $207,000 was the average price. Okay. So if you take 207,000, is 742 ounces of gold to buy a house in 2000. Today, what is the house price in 2025? $416,900. Well, even take the higher price, right? I mean, the median report, it says the median home was approximately $416,900. However, figures can vary. The highest one is $512,800. Okay. So we'll call the high end 512,000, even, make it easier. 512,800 more in favor of against what I'm saying. And you had 741 ounces of gold. So right now, your price of your house has over doubled since you moved in. So good investment, you think, right? Yeah, great investment. I sell it and I make $300,000. I way over doubled my money on my 207. It's now worth 512. Great. could have spent 741 ounces of gold to buy that house. And what's that 742? What is that 742 ounces of gold worth today? Well, what is gold today? Gold right now is 42.18. Okay. So 42.18 times 742, 3,129,756 divided by 512,000. Right now, you could buy 6 houses for the same amount of gold that you would have paid for one house in the year 2000, yet the house has gone up by over 100%. Do you see what I'm talking about? It's the measuring stick that is faulty.
Yep.
We are measuring it against a basket of currencies that are all deflating, that are all inflating, but the currency value is deflating. So gold is used to maintain your standard of living, if not accelerate it in an inflationary environment. And you can go back anywhere as far as you want to 1971 when we left the gold standard completely, or the backing of the dollar, and measured against any asset, and you'll see a similar story. Look, you're in Europe, you see the rise of, authoritarianism, control of speech, of movement. You throw in jail for a bad tweet. Could they confiscate gold? Sure. Why not? Do I expect it to happen? I would say it has a greater chance of happening there, perhaps, than it does here at this point, because they seem to be farther down that authoritarian curve than we are. But you could argue with Trump pushing for the digital ID, that is the first step towards a digital surveillance state, towards authoritarianism. I'd like to hope it doesn't happen. I think in the US, you got GLD and SLV held by JP Morgan and BlackRock. It would be much easier for them to confiscate those two funds and tell everyone what we just did with the prospectus gives us the permission to do. What are you all bitching about? You can own physical metal. That to me would be a way for them to have their cake and eat it too. Trump, to my knowledge, did pass a law to allow 401ks. I don't know when it goes into effect, to be invested in alternative investments like cryptocurrencies and precious metals. Typically, a 401k, the answer is no. You can only do it through a self-directed IRA if you no longer are employed at said employer. But he did pass something, and I don't know when it goes into effect. I would guess maybe next year, where they will open that up. At this point, no, but it's becoming more of a realistic possibility in the near future. I even have the card on me. Glint is a program where you hold gold and silver in a vault in Brink's vault in the UK, in Switzerland, and you can. Here's the credit card that you get, Glint card, and it's a MasterCard. You can use it wherever MasterCard is taken, and the technology is fantastic. It truly is. I mean, when you open up your Glint app and you make a purchase with the Glint card, and just like that, you see it go zzz, or if you add money, and it's within a few milliseconds, and it takes it right out of your gold holdings. It's a way for you to disintermediate the banking system to a degree, where you're not holding your money in a bank where you're an unsecured general creditor. You hold it in the form of gold or silver, held at Brink Switzerland, with the ability to access it immediately on a mobile app or with a credit card. It's neat, and they're expanding their program. They want to get into other things that will even expand the services, but for now, it's just a convenient way to be able to unlock your gold and silver and spend it instantly. Funny thing is that I buy $500 worth a month of it just to do it. And I've only used it a couple of times because only when I've had to, because I carry American Express and some places don't take it. I don't have a Visa card, and so that's the only thing I have that isn't. And I'm reluctant to use it. I don't want to. That's the thing with gold bugs. We don't want to spend what we're stashing away, but you can. For some people, it's great. They have all the physical gold they want, but they don't want to be in the bank. They'd rather keep their money in an asset that is appreciating as the dollar is depreciating, and use it that way. There's something to be said for it. You don't buy it to become wealthy. You buy it because it is wealth that goes back as far as recorded time. And here we are, the smartest people in the world, are on a binge that no one's ever seen before. Now, it was one thing for me to say this to your audience for the last 5 years, talking about the central banks and all of the repatriation out of the Bank of England and the New York Federal Reserve, yet the United States didn't play along. The United States really didn't do anything with gold. And then all of a sudden, since last November, when Trump was elected, we have become the largest importer in the world. And probably a lot more coming in that we're not told about, billions upon billions upon billions upon billions upon billions upon billions, and keeps pouring into the United States, and not a damn word from the mainstream media about it. Where is the journalistic integrity saying, who's buying all this gold? Who's delivering all this gold? When the most sophisticated traders here in the United States get involved, that's very different than those of the BRICS nations. And it's an acknowledgement of what we've been saying. Now, when you talk about the U.S. government reclassifying silver as a critical mineral, you've now made silver a product of national policy and national security. Then China pushes back and says, we're going to do the same thing and limit exports. This is a battle, a slow motion battle that will go into an all-out sprint at some point, for he who has all of the commodities wins, not just gold and silver, all of them. That's why the Chinese own the LMA, which is the London Metals Exchange. All the base metals, they own it. And they've built vaults in China to warehouse the metals traded on the LME. The Belt Road Initiative, all the 150 plus countries that are all resource rich and underdeveloped, well, they're spearheading that. The BRICS nations, all of the relationships are either resource rich and or strategically located shipping routes on land or on sea. This is a game that they're playing, and they've been using our stupidity and hubris and manipulation to support a crumbling Western system against us. And it's now been realized, I think, by this administration, and now we're doing all we can to catch up by naming silver critical, by importing tons of gold, saying it's all about tariffs, and saying, oh, we're just kidding. I've been saying that on your show since day one, that the tariffs are. It's not tariffs, it's reshoring. It's a new game. It's a new monetary system.